has a few things to say. Thank you.
Doesn't that music really spice things up? Isn't it great? It's really great. Thank you so much for that, Mike. All right, we're all about solutions, right? That's what we're out to do, solve these problems. But as you're well aware, because you've all been part of the process, we had to determine what those problems were first, and that's why you were out there. So for 2.5 years, we've been combing through the voter rolls. We've been keeping up a good communication with our county elections officials, and we all went out in June and November of 2012, and we observed the process. And in all of that observation, you turned in enough incident report forms that we now created a report for that. Most of you have seen the report. If you would like a copy of it, it's on one of our tables down there. But you all know what the report said. And it identified all of these violations that were over and over and over again and universal throughout the state. So what we have done now is said, all right, let's categorize. Let's put these into categories so that we can start the solution process. And this may be something that you're not as familiar with. So I'm going to run through that very quickly. First of all, we identified that there are problems with registration violations. And Linda's going to talk about that in a few minutes in more detail. But we have very clear evidence that we have circulators who are running registration drives and duplicating voters, changing party affiliations, changing addresses, changing the way that people want to vote. And so we are going to have to be solving that problem with the cooperation of our county elections officials. And as Linda said before, we have some really good news that our elections officials are finally looking at the evidence that we have provided and beginning to realize there are problems and that they are stepping forward to help solve them. So this is very, very good news. We are making tremendous strides in that. We also have poll worker problems. What we discovered in all of our observations is that the vast, vast, vast majority of poll workers are out there doing a yeoman service. They do a great job. They really are dedicated. They want to follow the law. They want clean, fair, and honest elections. However, they are not being given the education they need to do the job. Most of them have not received the education on even the bare minimum, most important election code issues, and therefore they're running the elections based on, common sense or procedure. Our observers, and I know each one of you who was out there observing, you probably had to do this. Our observers have the legal right given to us by the California state election code and other laws to, when we see something happening in the process of voting that we believe is probably not following the law, we can talk to the election board and we can say, we have a question here. According to understanding of the law, this is the way this is supposed to be done, and you're not doing it that way. We found that almost every case, when we brought their attention to the law, they said, oh, we didn't know that. But because you were so well informed and you were so well provided with the information right in front of you, they then went, oh my goodness, okay, we'll do it your way. And we had some experiences in San Diego where we had precinct inspectors calling me at the hotline and saying, my observer is leaving, they're done with their shift, do you have another observer to send? They were really honestly glad that most of us were there when the day was finished. So you are making a difference because you've done it the right way, and you've helped them to realize that there's an awful lot that information that they're not getting in their very swift training. And that's one of the things that we're trying to solve with the county officials' offices. I'm getting distracted by these beautiful horses that are coming through here. Hi, guys. So we're working with these county elections officials to bring their attention to some of the things that maybe they can do to beef up the way in which they train their poll workers so that they are more equipped with the actual laws that they're supposed to be following. Every single one of those laws is there to protect each and every vote, making sure that each and every vote is cast properly, is counted properly, and when they don't follow some of those procedures, then some of those votes might be in jeopardy. And that's what we're there to make sure, that every single vote cast is is lawful and that it is counted. We also are having problems with vote by mail. As you may be aware, around 50% of the population of California votes by mail. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands out there, but if I were to ask you to raise your hand, I'm sure that about 50% of you out there would raise your hand, maybe fewer because you're a little more educated, would say, yes, that's how I vote. And so we need to be on a crusade in EIP to convince people that vote by mail is probably the second worst way you can vote if you value the integrity of your ballot. I know it's easy, I know it's convenient, but every time you push an easy button, there is a price to pay. If it's too good to be true, you know there are consequences on the other end. And we want to continue to spread this word. Some of you may have noticed on the website that we are beginning next month an education blog that will change every 2 weeks. You will also, if you're on our email list, we will email this out to you, and we ask that you send these pieces of education for every voter in the state, that you send them out to everyone you know, send them out to the membership lists of organizations to which you belong, so that we can educate the populace in California, because educated voters are going to cast protected votes. The vote by mail situation we have is so important, and there are so many incredibly good reasons to consider not voting that way if you have a choice, that there are five installments of this education program that will be dedicated just to telling you why voting by mail is a bad idea. So that gives you some idea about just how concerned we are about that process and how it may be muddying the waters in terms of a fair and honest election. So keep your eye out for those education blurbs, and do read them, and do share this information with everybody you know. We want people to cast educated votes, and a vote by mail ballot is supposed to be a stopgap. If you absolutely can't make it to the polls, it's better than nothing, but it should not be the way that you make your first choice to vote, and we'll give you all the reasons why. We also are very concerned about the alarming growth in the number of provisional ballots cast. Now, I said vote by mail is your second worst way to vote. Provisional ballot is absolutely the worst way to vote if you value the integrity of your vote. And again, it's easy. Most people are voting provisionally by choice. Oh, gee, I don't want to go to my precinct. I want to go vote with my friend over at her precinct before we go to breakfast together. Or I want to go vote where I pick my kids up from school. Or I want to go out at lunch and vote at a place near where I work so I don't have to take the time to do it after work. There are all kinds of reasons why people want to vote provisionally. It's a terrible way to vote. We notice, and those of you who are out there at the polls probably heard voters ask the question, well, if I vote provisionally, I want to make sure my vote counts today. They're going to publish the winners today. I want to make sure my vote is counted today. And poll workers, because they were uneducated, said, oh, don't worry, it'll count today. No. Provisional ballots don't even get started being counted until a week and a half, 2 weeks after Election Day, because they have to be the last ballots to be counted. And then they go through such a long, involved process of verification and validation before they can even be open to be counted. I won't go through all of that, but I will give you the last step. When you vote provisionally, you're probably voting out of your own district in something. It may be just a water board or a school board, fire district, or it may be something bigger like your assembly district or something like that. And so you are getting a ballot at a precinct that isn't yours, and therefore you are filling out a ballot to which you are not entitled. You are neglecting to be able to vote on your own ballot, and the things to which you are entitled to vote are not on the ballot you've received because you've chosen to vote somewhere other than your home precinct. So when it comes down to going through the entire process and they've decided, okay, I guess we can count this ballot because it meets all the other criteria, then they will open that ballot, and one worker will stand there with your provisional ballot, and another worker will stand there with a copy of the ballot you were entitled to fill out, and one item at a time, they will go down and say, can this vote be counted? Can this vote be counted? Can this vote be counted? And any time that they see a vote that you've cast that you weren't entitled to, they will white it out before they send it through the machine. It doesn't take a whole lot of imagination to see the possibility of manipulation and error and carelessness there. So provisional voting, for a lot of reasons, is a very bad way to vote. And again, very close to the election, so it'll be fresh in people's minds. Our education blurb will come out explaining to people why they should really try not to vote provisionally if they can help it. Now, we had large numbers of people in the state of California who were forced to vote provisionally because of the chaos in some of the counties. They were misinformed as to where their voting place was. Because of the registration violations, some people had been moved to vote by mail voters when they didn't ask for that, and they never received a ballot, so they showed up to vote only to be told, well, you're listed as vote by mail, so all we can do now is give you a provisional ballot. So a lot of people had to vote provisionally simply because of the chaos. So we're going to try to educate voters as to how they can make sure that doesn't happen to them. And that's starting in September. Some of that information is going out right away in September, and we'll repeat it closer to the election. So the more educated you can be, and the more educated you can make your friends and everyone you know about the process of voting and how to protect your registration and how to protect your vote, the more accurate our elections are going to be. And so we're asking you to follow our education blurbs on our website and through the emails that you will be receiving. And please help to be educators. Linda said a few minutes ago, we're preaching to the choir. Well, I heard a wonderful statement not long ago. Yes, we're preaching to the choir. Why do we do that? Because we want and need the choir to sing. So you guys are the choir. You believe in what we're doing. Most of you are heavily involved in what we are doing, but we need you to sing. Sing loud. Spread the word, because this is not politics. This is not partisan. This is American, and is the very soul of what allows us to choose our representatives, and we want the process to be clean, fair, and honest, and that's what we are working for. The last area of concern that came out of all of our observation reports were vulnerable populations. One of those vulnerable populations are our elderly people, those who are living in homes and places where they can become isolated and are targets for people who would like to help manipulate them and their vote. And so we need to be aware of that, and we need to be educating people who are concerned about those people. The other big vulnerable population we have is all of our youth. Our 18 to 25-year-olds who are also kind of being led astray, sometimes on purpose, but a lot of times just for, rampant ignorance around. And to speak to that issue a little more clearly, I'm going to introduce you to Valerie Watson. Are you here, Valerie? Okay. Valerie Watson, who's our Santa Barbara County coordinator, and she's going to talk to us